All right, YouTube. The state of Hawaii has filed its challenge to Trump's temporary freeze on immigrants from 6 nations. It's a much more limited plan than it was before. It's, I believe, of shorter duration, number one, limits the number of states further, number two. Hawaii's challenge, though, is rather exceptionally unique because the main claim they're making is that it forces the creation of a state religion in the state of Hawaii. I guess the idea is that these 6 states, everybody there is a Muslim, invariably. There are no Christians, no Jews, no atheists, no anything like that, and that it's specifically religiously fixated. The fact is that they're completely wrong. This particular challenge, I don't think, is going to have many teeth when it comes to the federal court system. You could challenge the idea that the federal government has the right to manage borders at all. If you were inclined to do so. The problem with that, of course, is you'd be siding with people like Joe Arpaio and the government of Texas, places like that want to control their own border with Mexico, specifically because under Obama, the federal government never bothered to safeguard their states. They actually basically forsook the activities of ICE and similar things, didn't want more border defense, certainly loved catch and release. So what you've had... Here's the danger for all of these blue states challenging the federal supremacy of the concept of immigration across national borders. The problem is that not that long ago, the challenge was coming from red states that sought to control their own borders specifically to crack down on them more. I don't think that this particular challenge is going to work. The state of Hawaii, though, you've got to remember, number one is majority Asiatic. That is, people of South Pacific heritage, not white heritage or Latinos or anything like that. That's number one. Number two, it is a very, very blue state. It's an almost entirely tourism-fed. It's like Vermont. These are the two major tourist havens of the country. As far as states that specifically exist because there is tourism there, naturally then they are quite liberal as well, because they sort of have to deal with all of the concession stands and the little commercial box outlets and all the touristy crap, so they have to have the nice pure water and so forth. So they're really on board with hippie-trippy environmentalism. I saw last night, just as an aside here, is funny, being liberal, which already posts retarded things on a daily basis. Most of what they post makes no sense. They even alienated like a bunch of white feminists on there, which is funny to watch. They were talking about, oh, Trump wants to return to 1969, back when, this river caught fire in the United States. Can't remember which river it was. 1969, we had just had a decade of nonstop Democratic leadership. And Richard Nixon, a Republican who ended up resigning from office, decided the next year to sign the Clean Air Act. Yes, okay, we get your point. I think you're arguing against your own point, but... they don't seem to notice this on a daily basis. As far as Hawaii goes, though, the idea that Trump's ban on immigrants from these states is a Muslim ban is completely ridiculous. If he wanted to ban Islamic immigration, there are a hell of a lot of other Islamic nations that he appears not to have added to that list. So that argument doesn't make a lot of sense. There are non-Muslims in these states who will also be banned, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I fail to see how this forces the state of Hawaii to establish a state religion. Specifically because only in the most roundabout way could you possibly relegate this to a religious argument. This is about states that Trump feels are sponsoring or allowing terrorism and things of that nature. Now we can get into the nitty-gritty of which states he's choosing and whether he's right on that. Personally, I would say Saudi Arabia would have to be added to any legitimate list of state sponsors of terrorism that we didn't want people pouring in from. But then again, at the same time, of course, you got to realize the Saudi government primarily pays less well-off people from outside of Saudi Arabia to conduct its proxy attacks, so it wouldn't really do much, honestly. They'll pay off Christians to do it. If they can't find any Muslims that are willing to attack something, they'll pay some some group in Africa that has tribalistic beliefs. I'll go blow up this oil rig or something like that. I'll pay a communist group, or they'll work with anyone. They'll pay anybody to do their dirty work for them as long as they think they can get it done and not get caught out directly or indirectly as the actual culprit, the actual bankrollers of some terrorism that's gone on. Now, that's mostly Saudi Arabia, so I happen to disagree with Trump's assessment of each of these individual states. I think that more states should be added to it. I wouldn't constrain it further. I would vastly expand it. I would extend it well beyond 90 days. And I would provide other things in there as well regarding our funding of some of these regimes around the world. All funding for the Saudis, the Pakistanis would be dropped. It would be completely erased. They would have to pull their weight in terms of crushing their own internal homegrown terrorists. They would need much greater transparency in order to convince me that they're deserving of any form of aid from the United States. That's number one. That would be the very start of any proposal I myself would put into place. As far as some of these states, you've got like lists that contain like Iran or something like that. Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism, primarily relegated to terrorism that takes place within the Middle East. Specifically, the Israelis don't like them. That's why they keep getting added to these lists of bad guys. Has nothing to do with them attacking us. As far as I know, there hasn't been a recent situation in which a Shiite Iranian-backed group has attacked the United States. So that being said, this particular move may not actually do much, but to challenge it on the basis that it is establishing a state religion is completely and utterly ridiculous. I don't know what the state of Hawaii is thinking in trying to make it that sort of issue. The court of public opinion may have already decided that this is a Muslim ban. The leftists think that because they want to believe that Trump is a bigot. The right wing, in some cases, believes it because they actually support such a thing. They're projecting their own beliefs off on Trump, who probably honestly doesn't give a fuck about that specific issue as much as you may think that he does. But in the legal sense, the way a judge works, the way a court works, is not the same as the court of public opinion. There's more constraint on the interpretation of what's being done there. There's more legalese. This can be a good or a bad thing, by the way, let's face it. As far as this so-called Muslim ban goes, though, because it does not contain all majority Islamic nations, because it doesn't mention Islam at all, where's the legal basis for Hawaii to make this argument? How are they being forced to establish a state religion? I would think, no, something like Sharia law would be the establishment of a state religion. I don't see Hawaii attempting to preemptively crack down on the possibility of religious theocratic law ever existing in their state. So until they're doing something like that, excuse me if I don't take your claim that seriously. But then again, we have to realize who runs Hawaii. A lot of long-term, very, very far-left career politicians, including that one dude, I can't remember, wasn't he in the House of Representatives and he was a severe anti-gun legislator there? And it turned out he was actually running illegal weapons to gang members for money. I can't remember his name. I think he was a representative or senator or something from Hawaii, and he was doing that. Is Michael Bloomberg selling automatic weapons to cartels? Somebody should probably keep an eye on him. It seems like a lot of these politicians do a great deal of projecting in their pet projects. Seems like, I'm part of the anti-war caucus. We should conduct drone strikes on this state over here. Something like that. It's like a sort of facade to protect them from criticism. Real dishonest. No, but that's what we've gotten used to. This isn't just a red and blue state sort of thing. Certainly happened in Texas with abortion. They went whole hog after that and tried to do that, and I think it was Mississippi, and it fell through. Even the total Baptists there defeated it. That was a sight to behold, too. People were fucking angry over that in both directions. Those that lost and those that won, both were extremely angry at the time. But I'm not going to respect the state of Hawaii for making such a retarded argument, because that's what it is. They're not being forced to establish a religion. What they're being told is, we're not going to take in immigrants temporarily. It's like a 90-day freeze from a handful of states, not nearly the entire Islamic majority world, in order to formulate a better vetting process or defensive strategy against terrorism. Whether or not the proposal actually would do anything, you can debate over all day, but it's not forcing anybody to establish, we're not going to allow Muslims in our state, we're a Christian nation now and forever, something like that. This is supported, the concept is even supported by entirely secular individuals. Hardline atheists oppose Islamofascism too, not without good reason. They're the ones that are going to get thrown from a building. Islamic countries, in a lot of parts of the Islamic world, Christians need to understand this, I think, and Jews as well. Christians and Jews in some of the moderate Islamic states are still considered people of the book. They're not going to throw you off a building as long as you pay some sort of tax, or at the very least, they don't want you to like convert seek or something. That's essentially as far as their regulation of those groups go. Atheists and pagans and occultists, they do kill them. Almost invariably, even in the more secular Islamic states. They are at the very least completely cut out of society and ostracized, forced literally out into some fucking cave or mountain somewhere, and at worst they are tortured and killed. It doesn't always happen to the Christian minorities. ISIS certainly would go after them. They hate Christians too. They leave the Jews that are there alone for some reason. I wonder why. You know, who's bankrolling them for all that oil? Who wants that oil really badly to sell to its neighbors? But people who are secular, they get targeted invariably. It doesn't matter if it's a westernized sort of Islamic state. Go to Morocco. Yeah, try being a Moroccan atheist. Try being a Tunisian atheist. See how easy it is for you to eke out an existence. Try being an atheist in Turkey, even in the more developed regions. At the very least, people are going to think you're a fucking weirdo at that point. And that's what people that are secular have to deal with. They're saying that they want, a lot of them probably want a total immigration ban from all Islamic states or all theocratic states worldwide. Anyone who has theocratic tendencies shouldn't be coming here and it should be permanent. There are a lot of people who would think that way. I wouldn't exactly be in opposition of it myself. That's about all. Peace out.